guys, welcome back to part 2 of our tutorial on Opus 70 number 1. Okay, so we're going to talk about technique. Now, we're mainly going to focus on technique in the first section because it is the most technically challenging. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is it's really important to keep a compact hand shape, specifically in the right hand, because that's where most of the technical challenge lies. A lot of these kind of figures, like this arpeggio, can have a tendency to stretch out the hand, especially if you use this fingering that I use, 1, 2, 3, 4 on this arpeggio, right? And then here, the same thing, this sort of a figure here, you can have a tendency to really stretch out the hand. And anytime that the hand stretches, that impinges mobility, and so it's going to make anything and everything more difficult. So it's very important to make sure that you can play everything with a compact hand. And I would even just practice this like this. Just practice shifting, and you can actually just play everything sort of non-legato. And just practice shifting from every single note, even when you have little figures like this. Notice how everything is shifting, and I shift over here, and then I shift up here, okay? So that compact hand is super important. Same thing in this figure here, especially with this right here. We don't want to stretch out the hand. The fourth finger is going to move somewhat. So for instance, see my hand sort of opens up slightly, but it's very slight. It's not this, okay? I'm not trying to reach that, okay? And I actually purposely like this fingering because it forces you to just move. And if everything is free and mobile, then it's perfectly easy to do, right? Okay. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about arm movements, because I kind of implied a lot of that, okay? So the first thing we want to think about, which again I already alluded to, is shifting the arm, and specifically, thinking about alignment, okay? And I just talked about this in a couple recent videos. So as you're playing this, you want to make sure that your arm is shifting laterally. So notice that my arm and hand is in a very different position than here. It's right here, okay? And I'm just going to leave my finger. Wait, hold on. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully you can kind of see that in the overhead camera. Okay, so I'm going to play this. Wow, see how much my arm just moved there? Okay, very important. All right, same thing here. Okay, if I sort of center my finger in the middle of my wrist here. See how much my arm just shifted there? Okay, so you have to have that lateral motion in your arm, and think about your elbow staying in line with your hand and sort of shifting everything together, okay? To keep that sort of alignment, okay? Same thing here, right? Shift, 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 shift. Oops, sorry, wrong note. Shift, 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 and then here, shift. Now, when you have these big leaps, you're going to make a slight adjustment in how you're moving your elbow. And that is that if I move my whole arm up here, that's a very slow movement. So I don't want to try to do that. Here, my arm, because these intervals aren't very large, my arm can just travel with me, but here, I have to pivot at my elbow. But notice that my arm is still straight with my hand. So see how, even if, okay, I pivot at my elbow here, my hand and arm is still straight. I still have that alignment. Okay, so that's important to realize that alignment isn't straight into the piano. It's the arm straight with the hand and behind each finger. Okay, so as I do this, my arm stays straight, and then it sort of shifts. Okay, I just sort of hinge at the elbow, move like this, okay? So my elbow stays back here, but it's still straight. And then I can kind of shift my arm over a little bit and make sure that my arm is traveling behind my hand, okay? Very important. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is rotation, okay? So most of the sort of the technical, thing behind how we want to approach this is rotation. Notice how I'm rotating, so I'm just sort of going down, right, left, and then I'm going left, right, left, and then again this is another trill, right? So right, right, left, so I'm sorry. Left, right, left, right, left, and then again we have right, left, right. And then again, this is sort of down, right, left, right. Okay, and notice again on this leap, very important, my elbow is not going to go up with me. That's very slow. It hinges like this, but notice I still have that alignment. I'm not like this or like this. Okay, so that's important. Now, the other thing that we want to think about here is whenever we have fast changes of direction, that's a great place to add some sort of circular or half circle motion, because that will help my arm and elbow sort of stay with my hand, okay? So, for instance, here we have this. Now we have this here. So now what I'm going to do, we have this fast change of direction. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a little bit of a circle motion here, and then circle here, circle. Now again, that's not a very big circle. It's pretty small here. I'm circling sort of around this corner. Notice how my arm then travels with me. So it's just a partial circle. Circle, now I'm done. Sorry. Circle, and then I'm done. Okay? It's kind of a small circle, but it really helps. Same thing on these arpeggiated things. I sort of have a little bit of a circle around, and that actually swings my elbow around. So that as I come down the arpeggio, my elbow is now behind my hand. So again, okay? Rotation. So we have left, left, right, and then right again, but I circle around so that my elbow, that was here, and I sort of hinge over here, right? But then the circle helps my elbow then come behind me so that I can play that arpeggio down, okay? Okay, so there's one more thing we have to talk about here with technique-wise for the first section, the sort of A section, if we will. And that is in and out movements, okay? So obviously the white keys are more sort of outer on the keyboard, and the black keys are farther in on the keyboard. And what this means is that, okay, if I'm going to just play a C major scale, I can just kind of be out here. But if I'm going to play on some black keys, I have to be in a position that I can play both. And I can think about moving a little bit more in. So for instance, if I have a scale, I'm going to be a little bit farther in here. So notice how, for instance, here, I'm in a position so that my thumb is sort of, right here, right? Right on the edge between the white and black keys. So what I'm going to do, see this position I'm in, right? I'm not out here, right? I'm really close here. Now, notice that I actually go in a little bit, okay? So I make sure that I'm still in so that my thumb is right here. And what that does is it puts this finger right here on this black key, which works really well for this. Now the reason for this is if I'm out here, now my thumb is here, but it needs to be here. So I have to twist around like this. Now see how my arm and hand and fingers are not aligned anymore? Because my hand is turned to the side. But if my position is in here, see how much less that turn in my hand is? It's very slight. Aha. Same thing here. See in this position, right? I'm sort of like halfway down the black key. Now that was actually a little bit too much because I have to play my thumb here. Playing my thumb here is awkward, right? So I want to be here, but again, if I was all the way out here, okay, so being in a little bit helps. Oops, sorry, wrong note. And then here, same thing. See that? It's a little bit of movement in my wrist. Now, obviously, sometimes the wrist has to be a pivot point, right? Like thinking about the Chopin Opus 25. Is it number 1? No, I don't think it's number 1. The Aeolian harp, right? So you have the... Right? So sometimes, of course, obviously, you have that sort of hinge on your third finger and your wrist moves. But what we want to make sure is we don't want an extremely sort of cocked position like that, because again, it breaks the unity from the hand and the arm, and it also puts a tremendous amount of tension in the wrist. That's actually how people develop tendonitis. Okay, so making sure that we're in enough, right, so that my position is here. And I can actually go in a little bit to my thumb, right? So if I'm here, I kind of go in just a little bit. And then see, there's almost no twist in my wrist. Beautiful, works really well. Then on this part, right, the secondary theme starting at measure 17. I'm also gonna be in a position so that my thumb is very close to the edge of the black keys here. All right, and what that's going to do is it's going to help me make sure that I don't have to have really big in and out movements, right? So I don't have to do this, right? See how that would just be awkward. So rather, I'm really in a good position to play either one. But now what I have to do is as I come down, I'm going to play my thumb on this A flat. Remember that? Okay? So if I'm way out here, I would have to twist. So I want to avoid that. It's just a lot of extra movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that as I play this, I'm far enough in so that my thumb can play this comfortably without twisting. And then I'm going to actually move out slightly, just because as I come down, I want to make sure my thumb's far enough in. But here, now I have to play in a white key, so I don't want to be way in here, right? So that little bit of in and out movement there keeps the unity of the hand and arm and makes that much, much more easy to play.
Und wenn das